Hey there, this is Red Falcon. This is the seventh match of the 2022 Summer Wargame Red Dragon Microdeck Tournament Series. With me today is my co-host Trout. And today we have the Fish Republican Army versus Asusia. We have Asusia on Team Red, and we have the Fish Republican Army on Team Blue. So Trout, got any words on this map before we get into it?
I will mention we had some scheduling issues for this match, so we have a 2v2, Gotstam and Andy versus myself and Navy Tuna. A nice small map, nice and tight. Pretty nasty one, death row. It kind of earns the name, and given the deck compositions, this will make for a really good, tight, straight-on kind of collision fight in Foxtrot Charlie. So I'm stoked on watching it again.
Indeed. It looks like we got, yeah, looks like there's some planning from Navy Tuna to use the pass but, on the side of the map, but we'll see. All right. Then it's gonna be a shit fight to town. All right, we ready?
I am ready.
All right. Countdown. Three, two, one, play.
So looking over Assessia's decks, it looks like they've taken two Soviet decks. I'm guessing we have a strict armor deck with Gotstan with the T64, and it's going to be either a motorized deck or an airborne deck from Ampi. Doing first contact with a MiG-25 PD and an Su-27S.
Yeah, I believe this is a motorized deck being utilized by Ambi and an armor deck being utilized by GOTS.
Interesting usage of the Mi-24Ds here. They've stopped at a point and are advancing forward, so that little tiny stop there takes some of the momentum out of that and allows HQ-7 to get in range and some of the other transports to get into range.
And we see a MiG-25 RBT trying to do some damage over here. Damaging the BRDM-3, but not killing it. And HQ-7 goes into some work. Oh, nice usage of your HQ-7s there. Tunguska M's are trying to do some damage now as well.
A good attempt at an early Gordo drop. Unfortunately, quite well countered by those HQ-7s, if I may say so myself.
and the tanks after they landed. Looks like we got some artillery firing. Let's identify it. Oh, those are your Talk Johns. Is this your Marine deck?
This is a Marine deck, yes.
Oh, this will be interesting. So we've got a Marine deck against a motorized on Death Row with two armor players using different tank tactics. Oh, so there's a Factory over here shooting at the T-80. But I don't believe... Oh, wait. Oh, I guess Navy Tuna can see the Factoria. And there he goes. Getting vengeance.
I'm a little bit worried about those T-64 BMs. That might be some side shots, early side shots from the T-80U.
Yeah, it's a serious concern. So it looks like Godsam Tunguska is coming in, and MB's 27S takes out the MiG-25 PD. Fortunately, it looks like the T-80Us did not suffer a side shot yet, but the missiles are from the T-80Bs are starting to pour in. Ah, don't you love the sound of Tunguska's firing?
They are a fun unit. They do the anti-helicopter role extremely well.
Oh, so Navy Tuna's RBT is coming in, bombs away, and the RBT is shot down, and killed. Identifying it looks to be like two T-64s. Wait, no, BMP-1s. Maybe a tank. So unfortunately for Ambi, it looks like he doesn't have really much of an artillery response here. Um, and that could be a problem. If his Pestinez can't clear out these Geogoctes, it's gonna be a tough sell for him to capture the city, I think.
Now looking at what's coming in here, so some more Gorner Strelky by the looks of it. T80U, and just more infantry, which makes sense for a town fight.
Oof. I just watched two of those transports he had get killed by those T-64s. It was a nice flanking maneuver to try and bypass the town by Gotts. He was having a hard time taking out the T-80s. He did not have expensive enough tanks to handle those. So obviously the next best logical route would be to bypass the position Navy 2 has taken up.
I will say having the tanks in the forest without a lot of infantry support is definitely a risky move.
Yeah. But the Gornals are here, and it's an interesting choice for Gotts to bring the Tunguska with, but it's sunlocking. That's for sure.
Well, and in case there's an infantry spot, I mean, get the fired on the infantry. That will do quite a bit of damage to any infantry try to push up through the woods there as well. So it's an option. I will point out over on the right-hand side of the map, there is a bit of reconnaissance going on to kind of flank that area out, see what's going on over there.
Yeah, it seems to be just kind of like a casual stroll through the woods and the mountainside.
I will point out, other than that, really neither side has put down reconnaissance on either sides of their starting point. So, an aggressive helicopter strike, something of that sort could definitely have dividends at this point. Very close on the points, 20 points to 6 points. So, kind of as can be expected on a map like this, where there's 3 points and 3 points. It is a tie.
Abby seems to be desperately trying to feed some more Spetsnazes in the town to try to change some of the outcome, and it's a solid maneuver. However, he does not necessarily have the volume of infantry I think necessary, at least among more Strelky, to really change this.
I will mention right now, kind of right on Foxtrot, on the town fight, there is no active anti-air on the FRA side, which can be very problematic if any more Mi-24Ds come into that area. It also means there really isn't any disincentive for the use of bombers over the town. Not that they know that, but they would be safe to do so.
Well, there is a Tunguska M hanging out in Foxtrot from Navy Tuna. That
Yes.
might dissuade a bit of bombing, but
I will say the same thing is actually quite true on the Ossetia side. Um, they've got one Tunguska kind of over on the far left-hand side of Charlie, but there's just not a lot of AA out there.
yeah.
That being said, with the deck types, there's not a lot of aircraft and there's not a lot of helicopters coming in, so
Nobody's really seemed to be expecting a whole lot of planes or helicopters. It will always be like a kind of like a troll move if someone built an armor deck and just spammed helicopters.
I think with the Soviets you could potentially make that work.
Oh, well, Gotts get a side shot with the T-80s here? Oof! That was a side shot on TADU. It's down to 3 hit
Oh, really?
points. And it's shaking.
Let's see if getting pulled back, so they should be safe. A few more hits there before they're actually taken out of the fight.
Yeah. If only Gods had some more tanks to back that up. And some good ones. But
The
I do love the T-64 as kind of like a prodding tank, but if it's not backed up by super heavies, it can be a rough ride. Or even just like standard heavy tanks. Sorry, but I cut you off. I didn't mean to.
just to mention, you mentioned the tanks, and there are actually 3 of Goss's tanks over on the far right-hand side. So there are some heavy tanks on the field, but they're not really going to an open place to fight, by the seems of it.
Huh. Interesting. Interesting maneuver. I'm not sure though it be wise, but interesting though it be. Hmm.
I will say it's been nice use of that MI2 over on the left-hand side. It's kind of given good sight lines over the town throughout the match. We'll see if the luck is getting pushed a little bit too far here, because it's getting very, very close to anti-aircraft range. Interesting choice here. We got a triple stack of BMP2 1986 over on the right-hand side, just within a Foxtrot. The infantry are still inside, so they're not in the best shape to engage those T-80s.
Huh. Well, the Spetsnaz is certainly moving, but the tanks aren't.
It's probably a little bit premature, but there is a flanking maneuver on the far side of Bravo that's underway currently.
Seems to be a couple flares pinging out by Gotstam. I think he believes that they might want to start covering the mountains, maybe. And it looks like MB's sending some stuff up there, so... Yeah. Trout, what you doing back there, huh? You see
Oh,
this?
yeah.
Behind Bravo? What is this little secret you doing, huh?
Well, it's a bit premature and definitely would have been better supported with a few more assets. But at this point, with the fight in Charlie, it was kind of decided that a diversionary attack would be potentially pull some resources from being able to be sent up to Charlie and the town fight.
Wow, looks like Gotsam is just ripping through the hills over here.
As much as I've given the tanks and the force attacks a little bit of a hard time, they definitely have done the trick in engaging kind of infantry and engaging support assets
Yeah,
in behind Foxtrot.
yeah, it seems like Gots is trying to position his tanks to look over the town so I can provide direct line fire into it. That might be the kind of like the thought process here, I think. And it's working because now they're able to start firing on the motor Strelke that Navy Tuna has. But they aren't staying there. Nice attempt with the JH-7 there, Trout. Looks like one of the missiles whiffed it.
Is quite an expensive attack for Gots then. That is 1 TADU down and 1 on 1 bar of health, so
Oh, that's rough.
I will say, looking back over this fight, the position on Foxtrot for FRA is very tenuous. There's definitely an advantage for deployed units and frontline units in the town, and it is an ideal time for a diversion.
Hmm.
Like the capture of a fob. If you look on Bravo right now, Assessia's fob has been captured by some Geogocti.
Oh, jeez. Ah, that's certainly gonna cause a hamper in the reinforcing. Because now GOTS can't just roll his BMPs safely anymore. And is spending time trying to fight them. And for a big city fight like over here at the city, time is precious.
Beyond that, it's kind of a micro thing where all of a sudden you have to focus back on the back part of the map, and there isn't the movement forward of the infantry in Charlie into Foxtrot that would allow them really to capitalize on the weakness of the position that the FRA has here.
Yeah, if you would have brought like a command infantry or even like a helicopter infantry, I might have allowed for some interesting stuff, but there wasn't a whole lot of heliborne assets present. But one thing's for sure, you certainly have artillery, and you can spot things from quite a ways out here.
I will say, looking at my own micro on this, I've had some Geogocti sitting on the backside of Foxtrot now for about probably four or 5 minutes. Not the greatest micro in getting those on into the town fight and really relieving that town fight.
Yeah. Hmm.
So this is actually a fairly important moment actually in the fight, is because we have a positive confirmed location on their fob, I've started artillerizing their fob.
Oh, you bully. Absolute
Uh,
bully. Look at you,
I,
bullying.
I can and I cannot confirm or deny that I am a bully.
Oh man. It almost makes me wonder if one of these shells is going to land on the Mi-24s. Looks.
I will say, looking at the layout of Ambi's deck, if they lose that fob, it'll make the resupply of those Mi-24 VPs and the Mi-24Ds much, much more difficult.
Yeah, very strenuous.
Kind of interesting little pause in the action here. No fighting going on in the town. Everyone's kind of just trying to regroup assets and bring forward
And
some stronger.
oh, and the fob's dead. Fob snipe! Did it! Fob
So that
snipe!
is a big, big loss.
Ah, you hate to see it. You really do.
Well, put your steamer on. I well, something I mentioned with the lack of assets over on the flanks, especially over on the left-hand side. where potentially, helicopters can slip through and there isn't much for defense there. Currently, you can see some Mi-24 VPs seeing if they can make their way a long round back to spawn on Delta.
Ooh, and you just got another snipe on an Mi-24D and Gordo Strelky sitting up in. I think your Leoren must have spotted it. Sorry.
Oh,
No, those Shockton 130mm are doing a lot more work than people might give them credit for.
so the counterattack on Bravo, or the kind of the ambush on Bravo there, definitely bought us the time to get into the city fight again and bring forward fresh Motorstrelki and Giagakta to really take that fight into Charlie.
Yeah. And those Geogokde are not having the best time with those Spetsnaz. Even if they're single stacked right now, those Spetsnaz still can be pretty lethal.
Absolutely. And no one likes to fight while they're on fire. Alright, we're about to see the commitment of the Mi-24 VPs into the supply line on Delta against the FRA, so that'll be interesting to see what comes of this.
Oh.
Q7
Oh,
successfully
here we
knocks
go.
one into the air.
Interesting helicopter assault. There was no
Oh,
reconnaissance by Ambi. They did knock out the HQ-7. And Toxtron 130mm getting out. Ambi is getting his vengeance.
there definitely is some vengeance going on here. You can tell that they were a little bit frustrated with those Toxtrons.
Just a little. You think he's gonna drop a message in your box and say you're an artillery noob at this point? Oh, the Tunguska M is in here to shut this down.
And a couple JH7s going in with the gun run to try to finish that off as well.
Oh yeah, beautiful. It looks like Gots is pinged to your fob, but what they don't know is it's only got 3 liters of soda left.
Not too worried about the soda condition of that Bob. It is not supplying very many people with delicious cool beverages. I am interested to see what happens over on the right-hand side. So as earlier, we tried to do a fairly heavy flanking mover back into Bravo. Currently, GOTS has some BMPs heading over into Delta, kind of by the right-hand side. And smartly enough, GOTS is bringing a command in behind them. We'll see how that pans out.
It's been a pretty close match so far in terms of like conquest points.
Absolutely. At this point in the match, it is anyone's game very much still. It's been 20 points to 6 points for pretty much half the match at this point. 23 minutes.
So you lost half of those half of your Toxtrons in the helicopter strike that Ambi did, but you could still cause a bit of damage.
3/4 actually. Out of 4 Toxtrons, that was 3 of them destroyed. So that
Oh,
very much kind of neuters
the artillery.
what ability we have at this point to use artillery.
But it looks like you're starting to dig into the town pretty well here. Looks like you spend a lot of infantry trying to capture it, but it's coming through because there isn't any infantry from Alsacia occupying the town.
Very much a brutal attritional fight. I don't think anyone really won that so much as who survived it. Oh, and they've spotted some recon. We're coming in for that pretty quick, which is always good to do. In some ways, it's kind of interesting because we've lost our artillery asset as they've lost the ability to resupply their helicopters effectively. So the strategic asset that really makes a difference, whether it be a helicopter attack and flank or whether it be artillery coming in to soften up a position. At this point in the match, it's essentially infantry and tanks versus infantry and tanks.
Sounds like death row on a 2v2.
Sounds like death row on a 2v2 indeed. Now, at this point, very, very slow going for the attack on
So it looks like we see your units
Delta,
advancing over
right-hand
here.
side.
Your portions and stuff are being fired up. Navy's trying to come in behind your stuff, and looks like you're deciding to make the order to withdraw. You've seen what they got.
There may not be much, but those 3 units of Factoria, that's enough rockets coming in really to slow down an attack, especially against lightly armored vehicles like the portions.
Oh wow, nice job by MB to snipe out that Seuss Winston and SK. Huh.
Oh, nice side shot. T-80U just got destroyed by some Gorna Strelki in Charlie.
Ooh. Yeah, that was a side shot. How awesome is it just in slight?
And we also have a little combat going on the far right-hand side with Gotsdam's Command and BMP 1Ps. A little bit of an aggressive attack with T-80Us here, so there's not a lot supporting them. They're pretty much out there on their own.
They seem to be
We've done
suffering some critical hits.
a very good job clearing out Charlie, but they're going to get cleared out if they don't get pulled back fairly quickly, I think. Indeed, one of the T-80Us lost. And those Mi-24 VPs really coming in, to do their job, just to make sure that those T-80s are getting hit from everywhere. Still not a side shot, so not decisive.
Yeah, absolutely. But both of his tank platoons are now below 50% health. So he's absolutely going to have to fall back and repair and rearm. And it looks like Gotts wants to seize the initiative back and start pushing the territory. We see a platoon of T-80As coming out, trying to deal some damage. Getting the side shot on the T-80A! And T-80U! Ooh! Wow! That hurts. Really hurts. But the VPs are coming back in for retaliation. They want vengeance for that T-80U. And the platoon of T-80A is downed. I'd say vengeance was served. Well served.
Well to note at this point, there isn't really a strong anti-air asset forward from the FRA on Charlie, so HQ-7, but it's empty. So there's nothing to counter those Mi-24 VPs. They're essentially, as long as they're in the air, as long as they've got something up there, they can fire with impunity and, move around with impunity.
Yeah, it looks like you sent yourself some cargo trucks to try to get those HQ-7s back up and rearmed. what's going on back here? Godstam looks like he sent some units around to your flank. And you're trying to
Yep.
sift them out with the Geococktane 90.
There's been a couple little clashes over there. So initially there were still the 3 BMP 1Ps and a few other units. I think a Tunguska as well.
Mhm.
And it's been just a low-level skirmish in the woods for the past 5 minutes, probably. I will say that is one of the downsides of the Corsians is the transport. Although they have the missile and they have the 73mm heat cannon, they do not have a cannon that can engage helicopters, and
Yeah, they don't.
that is a major advantage of 30mm cannons and even just heavy machine guns, is the ability to effectively counteract heli rushing.
Hmm. See a quad stack of T-80Us. I'm assuming that Navy Tuna just took his two groups of tanks that he had and put them into one big one, which works.
Yes. That is a lot of T-80U in one pile. That being said, there's not really a heavy asset that can really hit them at this point. There's no artillery that's going to harass them, and
So
not
far,
a really strong ATGM to destroy them either.
and no planes really have been present from Assasia to really warrant concern. We're halfway, more than halfway through the match, and it looks like they decided to not have to expend any planes if they had them, which might lead me to believe that they may not have much in the way in the airspace to knock all those T-80Us if they come pushing forward. So it'll all have to be a ground-based defensive. Hmm. A quiet day on death row, isn't it?
Seems to have ground down to pretty much attrition. It's of all the death row matches I've played, this is probably the one that is the highest amount of just straight attrition fighting. Feels a little bit more like World War One than the Cold War, that's for sure.
Right. Ah. Looks like you got a. Looks like Gatsu's got a little villager he's hiding up back here with a BMP of 1K. You see this?
I do.
And somebody else is. No, sorry. Godsam is sending himself some supplies uh, to fuel the BMP 1K. Looks like.
We'll have to see what happens here. I think this is an attempted command snipe, so we have some BMP 1Ps, and they're just about to run up to the fob here. The timing might be poor, as those ZTZ-59s are right there as well.
Oh yeah, that's absolutely bad timing.
Oh,
BMP one on
very
BMP
smart.
one. Look at this.
This is a close fight. We'll see what happens. I think that initial shot that panicked them is going to win the fight.
Oh, and they got it. The
Uh,
Navy Tuna's command got it. In a straight BMP one gunfight.
that
Hilarious.
was if nothing else, quite a lucky fight for us. That being said, at this point of the match, I think both teams have put down a lot of assets, and there probably isn't too much more coming in.
Huh.
You can see a Talk John 130 is right on Foxtrot, moving in the space between Charlie and Foxtrot. That is intentional. That is a Talk John moving up to take place in frontline fighting with his heat rounds.
Totally intentional.
It is 100% intentional. I wish I was joking, but it's a matter of there's no supplies left. For our team at this point, for the FRA, I think the one truck you can see by the HQ7, there's 2 cargoes there, and I think that is all of the supplies I have left on the map
Oh, mercy.
and in my inventory. Slight lie, I just brought in 2 more cargoes, but at this point I remember very, very clearly. There's not a lot left to drink from. I'll say at this point, the Geogocti that are on the field are what remains of our infantry. That is all we have left at this point.
Oh my.
So very much, really, quite a close match still. I think I can honestly say that without the fob snipe early in the match, victory definitely would not have been assured. Having those Mi-24 VPs, being able to resupply and get into combat more often would have definitely been a very big problem for us.
Easily, yeah.
As you say, those Spetsnaz are the terror of the Geogocti. You can see some of them fleeing back into the town right now to avoid certain death from napalm. Right on, Charlie. Interestingly enough, we're getting bucks coming out at this point, so fairly late in the match. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bucks coming out. It will definitely help counteract some of that helicopter spam. But that being said, I don't think there is a heck of a lot of helicopter spam left. And
And now,
somewhat
and
humorously enough,
God,
on the other side, there's some OSA AKMs coming out. So kind of you can tell it's bottom of the bowl. Stuff that isn't going to get a whole lot of use in the match at this point, but is being brought up because it's in the tab.
it's in the tab. Famous last words.
A little attempted push from Foxtrot into Charlie with some tanks by the old Trout Master, myself, and very quickly pushed back and shaken up by that very strong lineup of T-64 BMs and Factoria. At this point in the match, I think it's definitely a kind of a who blinks first. Whoever commits and is willing to push into what the enemy has and kind of see where are the assets that are important to hit, is definitely going to take some pain.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of T-64s tucked in that tree line in Charlie. And really, the point bleed isn't terrible. It's a +1 point bleed. It's 211 to 20. 21 minutes left in the match. That is definitely not something that's going to win the match, but puts a little bit of pressure on Alsacia just to push in and kind of get that point bleed down to nothing again.
Wow, the Jimmy Bond's being spotted for that far out? Oof. Oh, that's right. I think that was your Jimmy Bond there that got hit by those tanks.
Unfortunately, yes. So there goes the. Well, yeah. Still a +1.
Still a +1.
very interesting point in the fight. At this point, there are literally 10 Giagocti holding the town between Foxtrot and Charlie, along with some TADUs, so there just isn't a heck of a lot to support them. As I say that, TADUs open up. Very interesting point in the fight because at this point, both teams have essentially kind of, for direct line infantry, they're both exhausted, and there's a lot of armor staying on the ground still, so it kind of gives both teams have one option, which is use the armor.
Looks like TADAs are finally coming around, and with the TADUs, oh, this is going to be a stellar tank battle right here. I can tell. Gotsdam
Would
doesn't want to
be
catch the heat just yet.
stellar tank battle, except that yeah, Gotts is pulling his tanks back, so we'll see kind of what comes of this. That's a lot of Factorios there. Have the potential to do a lot of damage to those T80As. And a good combined attack. A little bit timing's a little bit off, but the ZTZ-59s are joining in, so there's a lot of volume of tanks coming into that tank battle. The T80Us are the one asset that are kind of missing, and let's see how it all goes. Yeah, very expensive for those TDAs. 3 of them down, and the Factorias are all sitting quite comfortable still. TDUs are
Oh,
committed.
volume of fire! Look at that.
TDUs are committed, so this is the moment. We'll see what happens.
This is all your tanks here. Wait, maybe Tuna's starting to roll up.
So once again, coordination issues. You know, what other assets do you have? Do you have smoke? Do you have helicopters? Everything's being committed, and this is a pretty nasty fight.
Checking around, not seeing a whole lot of activity from Ambi.
Very bad timing on this recon that Ambi's got. Opening up on the T80Us, so I don't think those BRDMs are going to last too long. And we have a surrender.
And yep,
So this is
Ambi
where
is
good things
out.
are interesting.
So now, Gotts is the armor player now, just got a whole bunch of units. First thing he does, a platoon of T80Us.
With the T80Us, the 4 stack of them moving in, that is not a bad asset to pull out right off the bat, because you need something to counter that.
And those ETZ-59s are having a stroll. A stroll in the
Still only
woods.
+1. Still only +1, so 60 minutes left, and this is definitely not going to come down to a point win. This will just come down to the time running out. That is a lot of tanks coming in, so Gotts is really capitalizing on getting the reinforcements. We have 1, 2, almost 3 full stacks of T-64B coming in. That will very much challenge holding a position.
Oh, easily. The
So TADU
TEDUs,
entered the fight and ended it very quickly.
it ended before it even began,
And Fist of the North Star there.
right?
You are already dead. Yes, that did occur.
Absolutely. Nathan looks like he's kind of using your tanks for as ablet of armor for his T80Us there.
Not a bad decision, especially given what's coming up the road here. So definitely an attempt to capitalize on, moving up, taking the tree line, but it's a little bit too late, and a very good chance of an ambush successfully going off and eating up these TADUs on Alpha.
Looks like the ZZ59 is detracked. T80Us are looking a little scared at least. They're falling back.
Definitely good decision by Navy here. You know you're outnumbered. You know there's probably more coming in, so it's attempt to keep the assets you can.
Oh! Oh! Monstrous! Absolutely monstrous! He took out 280Us without losing a single. Did he?
There was one loss there, one TAD.
Oh, still monster, dude. Holy
And
shit.
you have the next surrender. So
Oh wow, and then you surrender. Now,
now
yeah.
this is kind of a repeat of earlier in the game. So at this point, we don't have a whole lot really stopping an advance into Charlie. But you can see some Geogocti moving up into Bravo.
And we see Navy Tuna is bringing out all the things he can at this point.
And really, it's just, do we have enough time to get those units to the front? And can GOTS do enough in 13 minutes to really change the match? Oh, this will be interesting. Some MiG-25 RBTs pulled very
Oh,
quickly.
oh, cluster bombers.
And
Oh, that's a lot. 16 bombs of clusters. Devastating! Holy shit!
this is where you can say the monster kill for sure.
Monster kill! Holy shit! That was fucking brutal.
So that very much took the sails out of that attack.
I'm counting at least 5, 6, 7, 8 tanks destroyed in that bombing run. Just
Yeah,
took the piss right out of it. And all the tanks that are left are badly damaged. Holy shit! That if there was some a solid chance for Gotsdam to take the fight the other way, and in the last 15 minutes here, I think it just went down a dream, right down the drain, with his dreams.
that was, you know, those RBTs are definitely kind of a dangerous unit to use because they get shot down. They're expensive, and you only get so many of them. But right there, that is the reason why you bring them. Is in the right circumstance, they can be an unmatched counter to any armor push, any heavy tank push.
Yeah, especially when they're all grouped together inside the reticle, you want to hit them. When you've got 16 tanks that are within the bombing zone, you hit the big red button. Oh, Charlotte, your poor. No, Navy's doing is controlling your Geogocta at this point, but trying to fall back and run away, but take out a BMP-1, so there you go. The vengeance has been had.
For one stack of Geogocti, pulling two full stacks of Motostrelki and a BMP-1P stack, and killing some of them. Definitely not a bad trade, and definitely not a bad trade in terms of pulling attention away from being able to advance down Alpha Charlie.
Yeah. Navy
It looks like
sees
the
that MI2, but
TDUs,
he cannot get the kill, unfortunately. Go on.
TDUs are just getting right into position, right in time, before Goss can really gather up and counterattack. Go ahead, sorry, you were saying?
Oh, not much. And there goes the BRM-1Ks. Essentially, Navy is kind of riding almost blind.
RBT's coming in again. Let's see what happens.
Oh, Was that bombing run scrubbed? I think that was a scrubbed run.
That was a scrubbed run, absolutely.
Huh.
A little bit anticlimactic.
Navy's really got us addicted to these big booms, but it's just not happening.
You'll be demanding the RBTs from now on, eh? Give me the booms.
Give me the booms. Ah, it's just they are a good plane for what they do.
That's really given us time, well, Navy time, to reinvest the town at Charlie to get some mortar strelky forward, set up a defensive, get some more tanks in position.
Mhm.
And at 10 minutes left, I mean, it's just not a lot of time to, well, do anything. It's a +1.
+1 with less than 10 minutes. But maybe we'll see something happen here.
Well, it's two armored players at this point, so if anything we can expect, it is more tanks crashing into more tanks, and that will be a good time.
Absolutely. Just like going to a monster truck rally. Not that I've ever been to one, but it's how I imagine it.
I think when I was very young, I went to one, and yes, if you had some wild zany voiceover lines and some wild zany characters, you would definitely turn this into a monster truck rally, monster tank rally.
Oh, hell. So it looks like there's three portions on top of this mountain over here with the Geogacte. The Bolsheviki and the BMP-1 are coming up the mountain. I feel like this is supposed to be something eventful, but it's just going to be kind of hilarious.
A good point to mention on Charlie, between Charlie and Alpha right now, we can see some Geogocti running through the open, and it's very important on death row to recognize there are large open spaces that look like they're treed.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a map you want to be very careful with because what you see does not equal what is actually in the map files necessarily.
Oh, yeah. You always got to check your mouse and check the right click of the, the mouse highlighting is blue or not. Um, I think did Guts accidentally? Nah. This Guts trying to go all the way around the mountain at this point, trying to bypass all the forces.
Yes, we talked about it after the match, and it's a little bit late for the attempt, but at the same time, if you know that you're kind of outmatched and outnumbered on one axis, it's reasonable to look for another axis.
Might have done that 10 minutes ago. I might have had a different result.
Absolutely. With 7 minutes left in the match, with the logistics required and the move speed of those T-64 BVs, unfortunately, they will not get into Delta in time to make a difference. I'm quite happy to see the last of Geogocti bravely forging on to Alpha. Now, interestingly enough, on the right side of the map where Gotts is moving those tanks into the woods there are a lot of things moving, and most of those are supply trucks. BMP-1P's in there as well. But that's a lot of supply trucks. And kind of what remains of anything that can be cycled over.
Yeah, it looks like Guts just kind of scraped the bottom of the barrel here because he's probably got a bunch of points that Emby was saving it. Had this match had no time limit, this would have been an interesting maneuver. Looks like Navy is giving us the air show over here with the triple amounts of Big 25 PDs.
They're probably not going to do a heck of a lot because there's not really anything left to shoot down. But I think at this point they're actually being used essentially as bait, just air reconnaissance.
Yeah, it's certainly something you can do when you need to get rid of a plane out of your airport tab. Just throw it at the enemy anti-air and watch it go down. Yep, and looks like God's got a Yak 141. Huh. Hard to tell if he inherited that from Ambi or if he brought it himself. Maybe he brought it in himself. Will we see Navy Tuna rush all these tanks into Bravo? With less than
Uh,
5 minutes left, it's a question if we will.
at this point, I should hope so because you know what else is going to happen at the end of this match?
Right?
If only the two giant columns of remaining tanks
Oh,
crashed into each other.
that was good. You see that?
That was a nice RBT snipe, absolutely.
Absolutely. Bravo. But this is just a blind fire.
And there is movement. Here we go. The tanks are moving. Hopefully this match will finish very quickly. We have the T-80As leading the way,
Oh my.
and there isn't a heck of a lot to stop them.
Almost looks like a good screenshot right here. Just the column of massive column of tanks, just riding down.
Well, I know the screenshot already that is going to define this match, and that is the multi-kill.
Yeah, you know you're right. You're absolutely right.
You don't very often see a giant column running down a highway this late in the match like that, and that is also a, you know, it's just a fairly unique end of the match scenario. I kind of wonder what would have happened if there had been, you know, some of the tanks in the way. I kind of wonder how this defensive fight would have gone.
Looks like Ambi is. Sorry. No, looks like Navy Tune is taking time to comb through the forest, see if there's anything in here. Much to his chagrin, there isn't.
There's not a thing, not a thing.
Uh,
Unfortunately, with both parties doing a very neat little dance around each other, I think this will be a very uneventful 2 minutes.
unfortunately. Unfortunately. Huh. It's so sad. You gotta, if he would have checked the timer, he would have seen that he wouldn't have had much time. He could just went down mid.
It is most sad of all, of course, for the viewers of this video who will not see an epic tank fight to finish off a
That's
attritional battle.
the biggest blue ball. When ground players in a box canyon go all the way to avoid each other. That's just sad. Oh, looks like Gats is sending in more stuff, but where was it?
One command left, and it isn't in the woods, so we'll see if it gets sniped out in the 1 minute left.
Oh, here we go.
That being said,
Finally.
there are multiple commands on the map.
Hey,
so
viewers, you're getting your last minute of tank fight.
unfortunately, it's a little bit one-sided.
If the end of the game isn't one-sided, it was probably a cakewalk. I mean, it was probably really hard. But this might be considered a little bit of a cakewalk at this point.
And looking over at that push that Gotts is trying to execute over onto Delta.
And Navy Tuna coming in for the double tap with the RBT strike. All right, and oh, that's game.
And there we go.
Well, 59 minutes and 34 seconds. Technically, the timer didn't tap out. I think he tapped out, or he lost his command.
I think so. Um, Overall, very, very, very static match with a lot of town fighting in one spot,
Absolutely. Um,
and a very lucky fob snipe early in the match to really put a damper on the use of helicopters, which I think would have been a really big asset for Ossetia in this match.
yeah. Um, Surprisingly, I'm relatively surprised Navy came out on top, but I guess he did stay out the last of the end of the match. But no, I was pleasantly surprised with the deployment of tanks that you had to use an overbearing number of like 50-point tanks against tanks that were a higher value and still come out on top. Uh,
Something I'm personally working on is just having the patience to build stuff up and put it in defensive positions and maintain and build force. Because that's important. If you don't have force concentration, you're not going to have a breakthrough and you're not going to have a successful attack.
Most definitely. Uh, any last words before we close out this video then?
Uh, just to keep you happy, I shall say, remember to smoke.
Yep. What was it? The anti-surgeon general warning: smoke or you die.
That's the one. And in this map specifically, with all that close town fighting and all that close tank fighting, smoke on some of those anti-tank missile positions would have made a big difference in pushing some of those attacks through more successfully. And in the end, it created a very, very grindy fight for both sides.
Certainly. All right. Well, thank you for watching, everyone. We'll see you in the next video.
See ya.